What are you saying, gents? It is your boy Bucket Hat Sam, and we are back again today for another video. Today's video is something slightly different. We're going to be brutally ranking every single Premier League's most valuable player right this very second. Yes, and we're going on the market value according to the transfer market. Yes, so it's not an opinion thing, but we're going to be ranking all those players in each category: GOAT, unreal, good, okay, poor, and get out. There will be only one player in GOAT, as because, well, I always say this: you can't have more than one player who's the greatest of all time. That's just simple for me. Let's get straight into it. We've got for Arsenal Bukayo Saka, who's currently valued at 150 million euros. I'll be telling you the value of all of these players, and let me know your thoughts on the values. I didn't decide them. There's some crazy ones out there. Don't get me wrong. I'm going to go straight into Unreal. I wouldn't say he's in GOAT. He may move up to GOAT. Who knows as this video goes on? Players moving around. You know how I do these things on this channel. Straight away, Unreal. We've seen how important he's been. It took him 7 minutes after his injury to get his first goal, which was absolutely mental. He's still Arsenal's most prolific player right now. He's absolutely incredible. And the way he's kind of progressed over time, transitioning when he first came through as a left back and becoming the absolute talisman and the main man for Arsenal, the man, the clutch man, the man they turn to in every single minute. This guy is an absolutely incredible footballer, a proper game changer, and I'm really glad to see him back fit. I absolutely love the guy, and for England, he's incredible as well. I just love him. Like, don't get me wrong, he's one of the best players in the Premier League. So yeah, I'm happy with this one. So we're going to go straight into Unreal. Next, got Amadou Onana for Aston Villa. Yes, it probably would shock you, and this is what's going to happen with a lot of these players. It might surprise you who is the most valuable. He is currently valued at 55 million, which I find really interesting, thinking how good this Villa side is, and their most valuable player right now is currently only valued at 55 million, especially when you consider he's 150 million, Bukayo Saka. But Amadou Onana, where would I put him? I'm going to go into good. Now, at one point in this season, he probably would be in Unreal, but I think that was just right at the start when he was scoring goals from corners and things, and everyone got a little bit excited. He's a very decent player, don't get me wrong, but I just think he's in good. I don't think he's the elite in the Premier League, but he's still very young. He's still got time to go. But under Unai Emery, he's been absolutely incredible. And I think probably the biggest problem for him is how good Kamara is for Aston Villa and how integral that he is to that Aston Villa side. So I think realistically, he's a good signing. Potentially could even be argued he's in okay. Don't get me wrong, I do really like him, and I feel like he's taken a massive step up from when he was at Everton, because when he was at Everton, his role simply was to break up play and move it on. Whereas you've seen he's a lot more technically gifted at times for this Aston Villa side. I've really liked him this season. Very exciting footballer. Next, we have got Bournemouth. It is Huijsen, valued at 42 million euros. Yes, and absolutely everybody's linked with him because it's been released by Fabrizio Romano, and he tweets about it every single flipping day that he's got a release clause. Real Madrid, Man City, Man United, absolutely everybody across Europe seems to be wanting this guy. I'm going to whack him into good. Probably and keep Onana. No, actually, I'll probably put him just above Onana. Now, don't get me wrong. Hear me out with this. I think he's a very good defender, but I do think we're doing this typical thing that we do with a lot of youngsters where we get way too excited with these players. I think he's a very decent centre back. We've seen it at times. He can play in a system where it's the high line. He can pass out from the back and things. He's very exciting, but what we do is because he scored a few goals, because everyone likes the way he has his socks low and he's a bit exciting, he's something new. Everyone goes, oh my word, he's one of the best centre backs in the Premier League. Let's all just take a chill pill. Let's all take a step back and calm down. He's a very good defender, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. So we're going to whack him in the top of good. He's not on that elite level compared to these guys. It's quite interesting to see when we go through the rest of these, by the way, how many people will be filling in the bottom. Because really, if you're the most valuable player at your squad, you really shouldn't be any lower than good, in my opinion. But we'll get on to that. Next, we've got João Pedro for Brighton and Hove Albion, who's currently valued at 50 million euros. I'm going to go straight in at the top of good. Now, I absolutely love this guy. I loved him when he was at Watford, and I feel like he's kind of got a real edge to his game. What I really like, he's a very technically gifted footballer. He takes the game by the scruff of the neck. He's very good in front of goal. He's a good finisher. He's also a Premier League captain. He's done that now twice. He was captain at Watford, and he's also been captain at Brighton, which is absolutely incredible. And not only that, I feel like he's got a little bit of tenacity, a little bit of bite to him, which I always really like in a player. And I think he's been really good, just tarnished by injuries a lot. And the thing is, I speak about this quite often with Brighton players. It's really difficult to stand out at Brighton because there's so many chops and changes. It's proper squad, it's a system, it's a machine. So if you can stand out even slightly, I think that's a real good sign for him as a player. But yeah, João Pedro definitely into the top of good. Next, we've got Eberechi Eze for Crystal Palace. And how much is he valued at, you ask? I can't find him on my list. He's 55 million euros. There we go. Sorry about that. I really like this guy. And again, I'm going to whack him into good. Maybe I might have to slow down with the way I'm going with good here because I might be getting too many players in here. You know how we do it. I may drop somebody down in a bit. But Eberechi Eze, I really like as a footballer. And I feel like this season, he's probably not been as good as we saw him last season, but I think that's down to the side because him and Elise had a kind of, they were just, it was absolute magic watching the two of them link up last season. But don't get me wrong, he's still a very good season. He's still a very, very good player. And there are not many players like him where you watch him as a footballer and you don't know what he's going to do. And that's what I love about him. He's kind of got that magic. We talk about that quite often. Him and João Pedro, but it's different with Eze. He is so creative and so brilliant. But what I'm going to do, looking at this list, I'm going to whack Onana down. Maybe because he's not had as much of an impact as I was hoping as the season's gone on. He started off being as integral to Aston Villa, but I think maybe as the season's gone on, we've seen other players really step up. He can't really break in ahead of Kamara and Tielemans and McGinn. Don't get me wrong, they're all good midfielders. So really, I probably should whack him into okay. Next, okay then, we have got Cole Palmer at Chelsea. Now, Cole Palmer, a lot of people now have kind of started to really turn on him a little bit just because he's had a bit of poor form. But we've got to remember, a year and a half, this guy's arguably been one of the best players in the Premier League. 130 million he's currently valued at, and whacking him in unreal. There aren't many players like him to perform the way he has done and the way he is doing currently for this Chelsea team. Let's just ignore these last few weeks and things where everyone's really highlighting and forget recency bias. The way he's been performing in a struggling side is absolutely incredible. There aren't many players that can do what he can do at his age in a struggling side. I think that's a sign of a real decent player that he can completely just take the game by a scruff of neck, completely drag his team through situations that they have no right to be in. I take my mind back to last season. I remember being sat at the pub eating a very nice truffle burger and some dirty fries. It was absolutely gorgeous. And he scored a hat trick against Man United and they came back right at the end. And I remember just sat back, just watching him thinking, that that is, I know we talk about this thing called aura and things, and people joke about it, but I think aura is just another word for a game winner. But there's something about him where he's inevitable, and I think that's the biggest thing, inevitable. We think about the game against Spurs and things like that. There are so many games, and to have that many moments in his career already for Chelsea, bearing in mind how old he is, I think that just kind of just tells you how important this guy is. And these two, it's very difficult to split, but I'm just going to put Bukayo Saka just slightly ahead of him for now. Next, we've got Jared Branthwaite. Jared Branthwaite, I'm going to whack into the top of okay. Now, Jared Branthwaite at Everton is currently valued at a whopping 50 million euros. Now, I really like Jared Branthwaite, don't get me wrong. And now some people may come for me because I know a lot of fans seem to really put him on a pedestal. But what I'm going to say is, I think he's slightly overrated and slightly overhyped. Like, don't get me wrong, I think he's a classy defender. He's a decent defender, don't get me wrong. But for some reason, everyone's crying out that he should be starting for England. He should be nowhere near the England starting 11. Ezri Konsa, Mark Gahey, John Stones, they're all above him. There are many centre backs above him. And I think we kind of do this thing where he's a young English centre back and we really like to push them that little bit further. But don't get me wrong, he's a decent defender. That's why he's an okay. He's a solid player, but I don't think he's any more than that. I think, again, it's the English bias that pulls him through. And the fact that he's quite, Everton don't get many kind of youth players come through that perform at the level that he has done. So I do think it's kind of, that's the reason why there's this wave of kind of everyone going, oh my word, he's incredible. Don't get me wrong, I like him, but I still think he's got a lot more to give. So I'm going to whack him in okay. I'm probably going to actually put him below Onana because I think that's probably a little bit harsh. Next, we've got Anthony Robertson. Hear me out. I whacked him in Unreal. Now, hear me out. Just give me a second. Anthony Robinson is currently valued at 35 million euros. Now, this guy is absolutely incredible. The American has absolutely torn apart the Premier League now for 2 seasons. Last season, I had him in my Premier League team this season, and most likely, I'll have him in there again. This guy creates chances for absolute fun, and I feel like he's extremely underrated and underappreciated. When we talk about him as a left back, I feel like he should be the one that should be replacing the likes of Andy Robertson, and players like that. This guy should easily be at a bigger club. No disrespect to Fulham, but he's absolutely incredible. What he can do defensively and going forward, he is probably, arguably, the main reason as to why Fulham have consistently performed now for 2 seasons in a row. I think he's absolutely incredible, and he's probably the best left back in the league, in my opinion, and has been for 2 seasons. So yeah, that's why we're whacking him in there. I absolutely am obsessed by him. I think he's incredible. And again, underappreciated. Everyone likes to talk about Kirkers and players like that, but I feel like Anthony Robinson has been by far the best defender in the Premier League. I love him at left back. Sorry, the best left back in the Premier League before that gets clipped out of context. Next, we've got Ipswich. Liam Delap, valued at currently 35 million euros. I'm going to whack him in okay. Top of okay. I really like him as a striker. I think the thing is, I think what you've got to remember is at Ipswich where he's not really getting too much service, but he still delivers. And I think that's the thing. I really like the fact that he kind of only gets given scraps and he makes a lot of goals for himself. And I think I got it wrong with him. I thought it was a really, really poor signing when I saw him at Hull. I've seen him previously in the Championship, and I thought he always struggled. I'm pretty sure it was Stoke as well. I remember him coming to West Bromwich Albion, my team, and he just struggled. I never really understood it. Ipswich paid the money, and fair play, they got it right. I remember the game against Manchester United earlier on in the season. I think they drew, and he absolutely tore apart De Ligt and Martinez, and he just caused absolute chaos for them. And that's what I really like. He makes chances on his own. He's a proper handful, and I'd like to see him at a bigger club where he'd get more chances when they'd be more so on the front foot. Maybe at somebody like a Crystal Palace where we actually get to really evaluate and assess how good a striker he is. But I really like him. Next, we have got Leicester City, and we have got El Kunas, 30 million from Genk, I think it was. For they paid quite a lot of money. I've been quite disappointed with him. He's a player that I'd got quite high hopes for, a tricky kind of advanced midfielder who's going to create a lot of chances. I think again he's struggled, and I think again we've got to remember he is playing for a struggling Leicester side, but I've not really been blown away by him. So I'm probably going to whack him in get out. I think it's probably a little bit harsh, but we've got to fill out this list, and I'm going to go and get out. Yeah, I just look at him and just think for the money they're paid and the fact that he's currently valued at 30 million, I've not seen anything realistically, bar a couple of games this season where I've gone, yeah, he's the man. So we're going and get out for El Kunas. Next, we have got Alexis McAllister. Alexis McAllister. I'm going to go into Unreal above Robinson. So now the reason why what blows me away with this Liverpool team. He's currently valued at 90 million euros. And I think what's been really massive for him this season is because last season he was playing as a deep line playing midfielder, then he was playing as a number 10, played box to box. Whereas this season he's kind of made that position his own. He's been playing in that box to box role. He's been absolutely incredible for Liverpool this season. And what again I really love about him is the tenacity, the fight, the willingness to run, the constant winning the ball back. And I think this season he's been a massive part as to why Liverpool have been as good as they have been. Him and Gravenberch in that midfield have been absolutely incredible together. Really got a nice kind of system going. I think, yeah, he's really underappreciated again. Somebody that isn't probably the most glamorous of footballers at times, but I think again he's got a real place, a real role in this Liverpool side, and as to how well they have done this season. Next, we've got Manchester City. We have got Erling Haaland, 130 million euros. Now, people may get annoyed at me for this, but I'm going to go in GOAT. When I talk about the most valuable players in this list, I think he's the best. Purely down to the fact you think about it, and I know we joke about him, and I've spoke about in the podcast, said he's washed and things. The guy is inevitable. Again, we talk about the Cole Palmer thing. We talk about how many poor games Erling Haaland has. But he puts the ball in the back of the onion bag, which is what we pay for at the end of the day, what every team needs. This guy is an absolute joke. The numbers he's now been putting up now consistently, year in, year out. Him and Ruud van Nistelrooy are the only ever Premier League strikers to get 20 plus goals in their first 3 seasons when in the Premier League, which is just incredible. And considering we talk about the fact that he's had a poor season, and people even argue last season he had a poor season, think about it. Injuries as well. And he's already got over 20 goals. It's just incredible. The guy is an absolute joke. So for me, he's arguably in this list when we're talking about these players, he's not my GOAT player in the Premier League, but when we're talking about the most valuable, I think he's probably the best out of all of these. So yeah, we'll whack him straight into there. Next, we've got Lenny Yoro. Poor for now, or is it okay? No, we'll go okay. I think Paul's probably a little bit harsh. I feel like he's still got more to give. I don't think he was supposed to play as much as he has done this season. I think he was supposed to be kind of being behind players like Martinez and De Ligt and Maguire to learn from them and kind of really progress on. Man United they bought him for a lot of money, but Man United have got 3 players who are also valued at the same value. I'm just going to say that straight away. Kobe Mainoo, Bruno Fernandes, and Yoro all valued at 55 million. He's probably been the most disappointing so far, but I do think again we've got to give him a little bit of time. And again, he's shown moments where he looks really comfortable on the ball and things, defends really well. And then again, he has moments where he laps in judgment, but he is still very young. And again, as I said, I don't think he was supposed to play as much as he has done this season. I think that's down to a lot of injuries. Next, Bruno Fernandes. Top of Unreal. I'm going to have him above Bukayo Saka because we talk about him. He's an absolute joke. He literally carries this Man United team week in, week out. How many times we talk about the fact that they're struggling, the fact that they're not creating chances? He is inevitable again. He scores so many goals this season. So many times he's just taken the game by the scruff of his neck and just performed for Manchester United. Again, another really underappreciated player because everyone likes to run this narrative that he moans and things like that and he's not a good captain. But as a player, he's unreal. One of the best in the Premier League. Next, got Kobe Mainoo. Top of okay. I'm not going to put him in good because I don't think he has been this season. I think we've got to talk about the fact that what we tend to do with a lot of these youngsters and things like that, we talk about what's happened in the past. We remember the fact that he scored in the FA Cup final. He played well for England. But this season, I know he's had a few injury problems, but he's been really struggling to break into the team. Actually, do you know what? I'm going to whack him in the bottom of good because when I'm looking at this list, he's better than those midfielders and better than those players. I just think he's been struggling. I think that's down to Amorim. And I do personally think, and I've said it before on the channel, I think he needs to get a move away to really progress and to kind of move on in his career. But don't get me wrong, a very good player on his day, but we just don't see it consistently enough. So we're going to whack him in the bottom of good. I think he can get to Unreal, but I just don't think Man United under Amorim is the system and the best place for him right now. Next, we've got Mbeumo. 50 million valued at for Brentford. We're going to whack him in the top of good. I don't think he's on the level of the rest of those players in Unreal, but he's an incredible footballer. I really like him. I love the fact that we spoke about what are Brentford going to do when Tony goes. This guy stepped up and kind of just fitted the mold as the main man at Brentford like it was absolutely nothing. It was so casual. The guy is an absolute joke, and I know a lot of clubs like Newcastle and Liverpool and other sides are reportedly sniffing around him, and I understand why. The guy is an absolute joke. I really like him. Does so much for Brentford, scoring goals, creating goals, doing absolutely everything for them. And I think he's a he's a proper modern footballer, a proper modern forward that can kind of play in any position going forward. I really like him. So yeah, definitely into the top of good. Next, got Alexander Isak. Alexander Isak has got to go in. We're going to whack him above Cole Palmer for now. We're going to whack him into Unreal. Alexander Isak is currently valued at 100 million euros. The guy has been incredible for Newcastle this season, even in the final when they won the Cup this year. I look at him, and I spoke about it before, that I wanted him to become a little bit more, have a little bit more conviction. And we've seen that in the last couple of seasons, where at the start, you kind of showed that he's got all the attributes to be an incredible footballer. But again, it wasn't consistent enough. But the last 2 seasons now, longevity, we're starting to see consistency from him, which is massive. I love him. Sometimes I think he's sometimes better suited to be a winger as kind of a second forward, but this season he's been absolutely incredible. And as to why Newcastle have been playing as well as they have done, I'm intrigued to see where he goes forward in his career, but I absolutely love him. And Newcastle right now is the place for him. So yeah, definitely in Unreal. Again, similar to Mbeumo, we're talking about complete forwards that can play anywhere across the front three. I really like him. Next, we've got Murillo. Murillo for Nottingham Forest is currently valued at 55 million euros. Again, we're going to whack him into good. Now, hear me out on this one. Again, I think this is similar to the Huijsen thing, where we get a little bit excited, a young centre back, quite exciting on the ball, baggy shorts, low socks, similar again to Huijsen, and it's something a little bit different. He's an exciting player, but I personally think Milenkovic is the better out of the two of the centre backs, but obviously he's valued at more, so we're going to whack him into good, but I do think he is slightly overrated. I think people would want him in Unreal, but I don't think he's at that level yet, but still a very good defender, so we're going to whack him into good for now. Don't get me wrong, good. These are solid players. Good, very, very, very good player. Next, we have got Southampton. Now, Southampton's an interesting one. Southampton have got two players, both valued at 25 million. Got Harwood Bellis and Dibbling. Now, straight away, Harwood Bellis, if we're doing compared to this list, I'll put him in poor. I've did it on another video recently. I said he's kind of shown in moments. I do really feel for him being a defender in this system, being forced to play out from the back and things. It's just a recipe for disaster. But I saw moments from him last season where I think he's a good player on his day. So I'm going to leave him in poor. I've kind of seen moments this season. I know they paid a lot of money, and the fact that he's valued 25 million does seem a little bit outrageous. But I do think if he was in a better side, more forward thinking, and wasn't kind of as much pressure on him, I think he'd be not on the level of these defenders, but he'd be kind of an okay. But he's not at that level yet, so I'm going to whack him into poor. Next, got Tyler Diblin. Tyler Diblin, I'm going to whack into okay. I'm going to have just below Branthwaite. Now, there's reports that he's valued at 100 million, which is absolutely everything wrong with football. Don't get me wrong. I think he's a good player and he's shown moments, but I don't think he's at the level that everyone seems to be pushing. He's nowhere near that kind of valuation. I like him as a footballer. He's exciting, but I think you look at it and just think, yes, maybe he's performed well for Southampton, and at times he's created a lot of chances for them this season, and kind of been a bit of a diamond in that side where you look at the side and it's been really poor. He's probably been one of the most exciting things. So I kind of think that's maybe why people push him a little bit further, because when you compare him to the rest of the team, he really stands out. But maybe if you whack him in a better side, how will he perform? I know he had a bit of time at Chelsea and moved back to Southampton and things. So he's quite clearly a good youth player, but I think we're all getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. He's okay for now. Maybe he could move on to work his way up the list, but I'm not sure as of yet. Next, we have got Kulusevski. Now, Kulusevski, I'm going to whack into the top of good. Kulusevski at times this season has been in Unreal, but again, consistency-wise, you can't have somebody in Unreal who's playing in a Tottenham side that have been as poor as they have done this season. So I'm going to whack him in the top of good. If he showed more consistency when he played in that number 10 role, probably would get into the bottom of Unreal, but he's just on the cusp of it as at this current moment. I really like him as a footballer, and a lot of times this season he was incredible for them. I remember when he absolutely tore Man United apart on his own, but again, it's consistency. We need to see more of that to really solidify yourself into Unreal. That's what we always go to when we're on this channel. I talk about consistency all the time. I think it's an incredible trait and something you want to see more so from a lot of players. Next, we have got Mohamed Kudus, currently valued. Oh, sorry, I've just realised I'm not telling you Kulusevski is valued at 60 million euros, by the way. Next, we've got Mohamed Kudus, West Ham's most valuable player, who is currently valued at 50 million euros. Do I whack him? I'm going to whack him into there, and I think Manu's going to. No, we'll leave Manu in there for now. We'll leave him there as of this moment. But Mohamed Kudus, the thing is with me, I speak about it all the time. He's one of those wingers, really excited, tenacity, kind of. He's got drive. You see him completely just tearing defenders apart. But what I really want to see is more consistent output. He's one of those players that blows really hot and cold, and in moments you watch him, you think this guy is absolutely incredible, and then he lets you down. He doesn't have that end product, and I think that might be the reason why he's currently at West Ham and why he isn't a better team. He has moments where you think he could be playing at a better level, but then he doesn't have that little bit of conviction that we spoke about under Alexander Isak. He reminds me a bit of Isak. When Isak first came to the Premier League, we kind of saw it, obviously not on the level Isak was clear of Mohamed Kudus, but in the sense of there was no end product. He didn't have the finishing, whereas Kudus is the same. Like his end product isn't quite there as of yet, so I'm going to whack him in the bottom of good for now. But I do think he could easily get into Unreal. I think that's something he's got to really work on with his game. But next we've got the final one, Matheus Cunha, who is currently at Wolves, who's valued at 55 million euros. I'm going to whack him into the bottom of Unreal. Now, this guy, I believe, is the only reason why Wolves have stayed up this season. I think he's been absolutely incredible for them this season. There's been so many moments where he has completely carried them. He has been the man that has scored their goals. Yes, I know he's got a lot of disciplinary problems. A lot of people talk about that quite often and say it's not right. I agree. That's something he's got to work on, but he's quite clearly going to move this summer. He's been absolutely incredible for them this season. So many times he's been the provider. He's been the provider for himself as well. There's been so many goals where he's just made something out of absolutely nothing. And I think that is something we talk about again. He's inevitable. And I'd really like to see him in a bigger side, in a better side, which looks like it's going to happen with his release clause, which is, I think, around about 50 something million, which is not far off what we spoke about there with his valuation. I'm excited to see where he moves to and how he performs, whether he plays as a second striker on the left. I'm intrigued to see, but I would like to see him at a better side. And then maybe he can really work his way to being one of the best attackers in the league. Because currently, I think there's an argument that he is up there, but I'd like to see him in a better side with better players around him to see how much further he can progress. But there you go. That is me brutally ranking and reviewing in a tier list every single club's most valuable Premier League player right now. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below, and please do like, comment, and subscribe. I'm trying to get to 15,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Yes, it's outrageous, but I can only do it if you help. Please help me out, and I appreciate you guys watching the recent videos. We've had our best kind of month this month, so I appreciate the support and thank you, and have a splendid week, and I hope all your team wins because West Brom aren't doing me any favours at the minute. But thank you guys, and I will see you soon. Peace.